Hello everyone, welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Hopefully we'll do this in about sort of 10-15 minutes. Of course, it's always a running joke. How much are you going to get out of Brian today? To the RationalInvestor.com's looks like we're recording on YouTube, so that's encouraging. Hopefully this is nice and smooth. I got the mayor of Albuquerque here with me this morning. Mr. Kavarkinator himself, driving the bus. If you hear a bling, maybe Kevin, you can give me a bling. Can you give me a bling? There's a bling. Come on, give me a bling. Give me a bling. There, you heard the bling. That's Kevin telling me I got to move on. So, of course, after the introductions, blah, blah, blah. But invaluable resource, and this is whole sort of 1 + 1 = 3. I think we have such a fantastic team here at TRI, and I love working with these people. So I just want to give a shout out to Kevin and let him know that he is greatly appreciated here. So if you got the stopwatch, let's start it now. All right, as I like to do with you guys here over on YouTube, just sort of give you a few things that we talked about on the site through today's daily brief. First and foremost, of course, this is the end of the summer, so this entire week's offerings, you have to understand the market state, the context of the market. Most of the pros are away. They're monkeying price around, back and forth, running stops, right, left, and center. And, of course, we're only one tweet away from all hell breaking loose in this kind of environment where it's really low liquidity. So with that said, we talked lots in the daily brief today about the Chinese currency and what's going on there. As you can see on our chart here, basically I believe that the Chinese government have decided they're going to solve the problem of the tariffs with just simply devaluing their currency, which in essence just makes it an offset, 1-for-1. That problem solved for them very quickly. Keep in mind that this is an international proxy. It's what the overseas people use when dealing with China. The internal currency, the renminbi, if I've pronounced that correctly, it doesn't change. So, ironically enough, you could actually make the argument China's playing with sort of a two decks. And this is going to, of course, drive Mr. Trump absolutely insane. But, I think the Chinese solution to all this tariff talk is just simply knock the price of the yuan, the international currency, down to offset the difference. And really the conversation that we had today in the daily brief was all about the effect that is going to have on all the neighboring countries around China, and specifically the baby powder report comes out of Thailand, but things like the Japanese yen, the Korean currencies, Philippines, Indonesia, all those currencies, and all the countries that are all closely associated around the periphery of China, they're probably the ones that are going to suffer the most. And, long and short of it here, on top of that issue, we've got Europe basically, and especially with things like Brexit events and UK Parliament being suspended, I'm actually seeing a situation where we're having like a mass rush into US dollar index here. You can see on our weekly chart, we've forged to another new, if we close the week here, it's going to be another new close high. Off the daily chart, you can see that basically we are trying to W here. This is a really big W, and it might even be a harmonic. So, just be cognizant of this. This is really messy. Often when I see the W's are this close to the old highs, if this is a harmonic, then it's probably projecting something like a 1.618 on the other side of this, like way up here kind of idea. I've seen that happen before too. But the long and short of it here is, the path of least resistance for the US dollar index is up right now. And a lot of the risk off proxies, things like Japanese yen, are actually looking a little bit vulnerable here. And I might even make the argument that yen actually has a bearish bot setup working. You can see move stop to break even. Scratch, right, has already been hit. And its ultimate target here in the short term is a press down into this reload zone down in here. So for those people that are, like things like gold bullish, be very careful here. Right? I've talked at length about um, gold yen, risk off assets. Also, too, things like the bond market is looking a little bit dangerous up top here. Right, these are all our sort of risk off assets. Interesting, risk on has caught one heck of a bid here. And it was actually the rally started in the oil pits. I saw that on that really big EIA number, the big drawdown yesterday. Stocks have been dragged higher. Now, here's an interesting conversation, which of course we'll get into later on. Is Bitcoin really a risk-on asset? I don't know. If we look at this correlation here, sure looks to me like Bitcoin's in that risk-off category. We will talk about some sort of the drivers in the short term, I think, that are actually driving why Bitcoin is heading lower here and not higher with these other risk-on asset proxies. We'll see how this debate goes, but it is an interesting conversation that we're constantly having on the site. Is Bitcoin risk-on or is it risk-off? Today, I would say it probably falls into the risk-off category, so go figure. So back to our little mini chart deck. There is that risk on sort of idea. Stocks actually gapped higher out of the gate this morning. We had a really cool TRI SOF Secret Options Formula Club meeting yesterday. Zach, my principal partner there, he needed to do it on Wednesday this week, so that's why we did it. Anybody on the site watching it, this video, we usually do it on Tuesdays. But nonetheless, we did have, I won't tell you it here in this video, but we did have a really, really cool little retail stock that we're trying to get filled on the long side in it. Once all our TRIers get filled on it, then maybe I'll talk to you guys about it here on this channel. But the point of the matter here is, like I said, oil stocks jumping higher here out of the gate. Is this just a question of more back and forth within this range? Shorting locations, buying locations, are they monkeying around with it? I heard talk out of people that, China's saying that trade negotiations are back on, and oh my goodness, the soap opera goes on. I'd also, too, say, this actually looks exactly the way the end of the summer, low liquidity, low participation should look, with gaps all over the map here. I did spend some time in the video today talking a little bit about my put option strategy. Yield curve, 30 years did go below 2 years, so I have to start thinking inversion. Haven't really gotten the message from Mr. Murphy's site on his yield curve tool, suggesting that we've been inverted, right? End of dot-com boom. You can see about, where are we here? A few months before the actual top of the market inverted. Junior Bush housing market bubble, about 6 months or so. Where the hell is it? About 6 months before the actual top inverted print. A little surprised that Mr. Murphy's yield curve analysis tool here hasn't printed inversion here. Short-term rates now are comfortably, they were yesterday. They jumped up above 30s. You can see the battle that's going on right now. They're really fighting with each other. And keep in mind, this is Fed Fund futures. I know, actually, this is the 30-day T-bill yield. Maybe what the street needs to see is for 30 years to now start printing below these shorter term paper. I don't know. But I think the writing's on the wall that, we're probably within 6 months, a year of actual recession. And you've heard me at length over the past year or so, and I'll keep repeating it. Trade wars never end well. And this is a perfect example. Everybody watching this, since Mr. Trump has started this war on trade, basically picking fights with everybody in the world, this kind of environment that we're in right now, where potentially the whole world feels like it's tipping over into recession, this is usually the end result of trade wars. So it really doesn't surprise me to see what's happening. And I did spend a lot of time in the daily brief over the past few days talking about sort of my put option strategy going forward. Kind of an interesting sort of side conversation that we had on the site today. The whole risk on versus risk off. I think I briefly mentioned this to you guys, the public, yesterday. This idea that crude and gold usually move in opposites. One's risk on, one's risk off. The crude market's kind of been sideways to the downside. Of course, gold market, everybody's talking about gold right now. It's getting a little ridiculous out there. And silver and all the like. I do like the idea of buying put options. I don't know whether I would actually outright short the metals here, but this is an interesting little conversation that we had on the site today. And this is just simply how many ounces of gold does it take to buy, or actually how many barrels of oil does it take to buy 1 ounce of gold, right? And right now we're sitting at about 27 and a half barrels of crude to buy 1 ounce of gold. And you could, to a certain degree, use this sort of study as sort of your, risk on, risk off kind of proxy. And, it's a little bit tough to trade with this, but hopefully visually you see that, this relationship has been going one direction, and as I said, gold bottomed, crude topped. This is back in the spring. Could we use a little bit of sort of maybe ebb and flow and clean this chart up a little bit? I think so. But really we probably need to wait for the return after Labor Day weekend. Do we actually have any, failure here just yet? I don't think so. I think we're still sort of sideways. And really that would just simply mean we got to see gold actually top out for this thing to break down. And I don't know, I'm not really overly impressed with the crude oil bottom here. I think a lot of the reason why crude got bid up there was because of the hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico. We do have one site member who's in Puerto Rico. Actually, we have a few site members there. So, find shelter there, James. Godspeed, be safe. Interesting conversations we were having about the gold and the oil and risk on, risk off. And this is kind of a fun little way for you to visualize that. Maybe throw that on your charts. GC1 divided by CL1. How many barrels of oil does it take to buy 1 ounce of gold? I always like to toot TRI's horn, and really nice little stock. A bunch of us in the TRI SOF club have been participating in. Really, we actually got into this trade back off of these double bottoms and stuff last spring. But a really interesting anecdote about the junior market in the States. There was actually a proxy put out in May by another company to go and acquire this company at $5 to $6 a share. And they reiterated their desire that they would like to take over this company at $5 to $6 a share. We're all, TRI SOFers got our orders to sell, halves on doubles and etc. We're coming into our levels here right now. So nice to see we got a nice little winner there on the day. Heading over to crypto, of course, everybody should be familiar with this general sort of topping message. 8,500 I think is probably a pretty good magnet for sort of the end of September. We had the big dump sort of yesterday, on OKCoin. Bot setups. I think I talked to you guys in the public about this. Right now my stop is at scratch. I'm more than comfortable just to let this thing breathe in here. And through the daily brief today, we talked a little bit about things like RSI studies off the higher time frames looking really bad. But at the same time too, we also talked through the daily brief what was the catalyst that sort of drove this dump. And Kevin here, even my co-host, pointed out that we had a CME futures contract expiry. And so the scuttlebutt was that a lot of this was just simply position squaring, getting out of that contract before expiry. So, you might see some back and forth. Market never moves in a straight line forever. You can actually see if we go A, B, C, D, we've come down into an objective here. I just like, this is a very large setup, and frankly speaking, I shouldn't lose money on this trade. My stop is at scratch, and I'm more than happy just to let this thing breathe. I wouldn't be surprised over the next week or two that Bitcoin, if we can recapture this downtrend line, and you can see it's really fighting at this level right now, But if the market can recapture that, then my hunch is we could probably rally right back up to 10,000, big fat round number, all that kind of conversation. And I'm more than happy just to sit on this short and just let it work. There's no hurry whatsoever for me. All right, and then finally, some of the other names within the crypto space. You know, we've been sort of talking a little bit recently. Lower highs and lower lows defines a bear market. I don't see any reason to be bullish of Ethereum here whatsoever. And then also too, excuse me. You know, I like to follow the sort of three horsemen. I could make an argument that maybe even Bitcoin has not actually fully lost this 38.2 level just yet. You can see these little tails. They're desperately holding in. You never know. I mean, Bitcoin might just, you know, clean itself up and hold these lows. You can see internally a lot of damage has been done here. But you know, things like Ethereum, you know, I just don't have any reason to be bullish here. Daily charts, we got new Davo sell signals coming in here. You know, me personally, this is terrible short trade location. I should be, you know, hunting shorts up top here. But I can understand the momentum players just simply playing a break of that little trend line. LJs, and then of course, like I said, you got like nice little M's in price and volume momentum indicator. So I can understand why the market's moving lower. Are coming into the original trend line support for Ethereum here. So it doesn't surprise me that there's a bit of a fight here. But, you know, what we want to see, we're going to have to start seeing, you know, bullish divergences develop in momentum indicators. Then we're going to have to see a W develop. So we're very, very, very early on any sort of signs of bottoms here. It is going to take some time to develop. And sort of same thing on Litecoin. I just don't see any, this is a weekly look. You know, we're just now coming down into reload zones. There is its original trend line. So it could still work its way a little bit lower. And then if we go down to the daily chart, you can see just like Ethereum, we got M's in OBV on volume spikes. It's nice to see that the selling interest is getting lower and lower and lower. It looks like it's exhausting itself as we're coming into actual buying windows. You know, we did get M's though, so, you know, the short-term momentum players, there's that little trend line I talked about off Ethereum, same sort of thing. On the break, I could understand them hitting this thing. It's not really a trade I'd be interested in because, you know, I should be hunting trades up top here, not in reload long zones. But same sort of thing that I said about Ethereum. You know, yes, we are now technically in trade location. I like the idea of this AB equals CD, which means I still think there's a bit more to go here down into this 1.618. We're coming up against 1.272, so really, it shouldn't surprise us to see some fight here. If this is the bottom, which, you know, like I said, I'm a little skeptical right now, I'm going to have to start seeing, you know, confirmed divergences in momentum. It's nice to see Willie stupidly oversold here. And then once those divergences come in on our internal indicators, then I want to start seeing W's in price, and then we can start hunting longs. But there's no real hurry here on any of this. So, okay, so that's sort of your summary here for today. Hopefully we've given you a couple ideas to chew on. I haven't given you any new trade ideas. We all us TRIers still have to get filled on our new stock idea. And then I'll bring it to your attention. Once we're in, then I'll be more than happy to tout it to the public. But remember, everybody, this is not advice. I'm not telling you what to do. Do your own due diligence. Please come up with your own trading plan. This is a very hard process to come to the market day in, day out, and be able to act clearly and succinctly, which means that you have to have a trading plan. You have to completely get in touch with who you are and why you're doing this, where you want your trading to take you. You have to clearly identify your strengths and your weaknesses. You have to identify what kind of chart patterns appeal to you to take trades, and vet setups. What does a trade actually look like? 3 unrelated reasons. You have to obey risk management religiously. I was very proud even this morning to hear, like Kevin said, well, I took a couple shots on some altcoins, but they stopped out. It's the way it goes. I mean, that's the sign of a professional. And that's how you have to approach this. So now, if you need help in building that trading plan, if you need help in getting in touch with who you are as an investor and how we're going to build your plan around you, if you need help on how do I go about vetting setups, 20 paper trades, 21 tenth account size trades, hey, our level 1 instructor wants you to take 100 paper trades before you start risking your hard-earned money in the market. So these are the kind of things. This is the value-added service that TRI provides. And FYI, we have a new school term coming up here in the early middle of September. And if you're interested, you're more than welcome to come on by and ask us questions about how you can participate. All right, have yourselves a great day, everybody. Nice little shill there at the end, but I think the program is definitely worth it. Have yourselves an awesome day. Good luck in the market. Follow those trading plans, and remember what your number one job is to do as a trader. And it'll be really interesting to see whether any of you in the comments actually know what the answer to that question is. So write a comment. Tell me what your number one job as a trader is to do every day. And by the way, have yourselves an awesome day. All the best, and bye.